Welcome to Matrimonial Merger, the podcast where Ambry and Jesse, a husband and wife couple, share their insights and experiences on relationships, health, and wealth. With their expertise in business and as neuro-linguistic master practitioners, they provide valuable advice on overcoming challenges and achieving success. Join us for practical tips on navigating the intersection of personal and professional life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're super excited to have you here. And today we're going to talk about something extremely exciting. We're going to talk about what viruses or malware do you have running in your process in your life that are actually causing you a whole lot of frustration and potentially damage or, destruction to your system, which your system is your life, your mind, your whatever, right? What processes are you running or what things are you doing that are actually a malware or a virus to your system?
I love that.
I do too, because I have an experience to share with you.
Well, I think that right now I've been dealing with viruses like physically for the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm even sitting right now with like the equivalent of a tampon up my nose. Like it's just gnarly.
Gross.
It doesn't stop running. You are all healthy, safe, and happy.
Yeah.
And but yes, I love this, and it's really resonating with me because you talk about virus installed. Like obviously, there's viruses in the body, and I've seen what kind of effects my body's had the last week.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear your story though. Let's jump right in.
So this is something that's happened to me recently. So I recently encountered some type of malware on my computer. And if any of you out there listening are super like techie or understand this, you will probably know what I'm talking about. I barely know what I'm talking about, but I was experiencing some kind of malware on my computer, and the symptom or cause of this, not cause, but the symptom, like the way I noticed it is every time I love Google, like I like searching with Google. I'm just used to it. Like Google's my go-to search engine, and that's just what I'm used to. And I go to search something on Google, hit enter, and it redirects to Microsoft Bing. And it's so frustrating to me. I hate it.
Well, Bing sucks anyways, my opinion.
I prefer Google.
Sure.
I'm used to it. I like the way it looks. I like the flow of the links, and I like it. Yeah. And so I get so irritated, like goes to Bing, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, what's going on? And, excuse me, because I'm resourceful, I'm like, okay, let's try again. So I try again, goes to Bing. Okay, let me try one more time. Oh, hey, I got it to go to Google. Yay, that's exciting, right? I got what I wanted. And so that happened. This continued to happen over and over and over. Like the course of maybe a week, 2 weeks, every time I jump on to search Google, it would redirect to Bing, and I'd go through the same process. Okay, I'll search again. And maybe the second or third time, it would finally go to Google. And I'm just over here like, oh my gosh, I'm frustrated at my computer. I am so irritated. So then my Google search redirects to why is this happening? Why is my Google redirecting to Bing? How do I get rid of Bing? And the conclusion was there's some kind of malware or program that you've recently installed, something needs to be removed, right? So there's a virus or malware that needs to be detected and removed. But before that, I tried resetting my search engine settings, deleting Microsoft Bing as a search engine in my browser, all these things. None of them worked. And ultimately it was there's some kind of malware that needs to be removed. Well, the interesting correlation that I made with this to our lives, right, is what things are we doing in our life that are this Microsoft Bing redirect, right? Where there's maybe a problem or there's some kind of feedback, and instead of addressing the problem, we're creating this ridiculous process to get where we want to go. When there's a direct path, there's a solution, but instead I'll search again. I'll just go this really ridiculous, long, frustrating way to get to what I want. Even though I know if I just fix this problem, every time I come back, it would be easy. It would be quick, straight to Google, boom, if I would just fix the problem. But instead, because I found a solution, even though it was ridiculous and annoying and made me feel very frustrated. It was like I knew how to do it. And so it was just autopilot. I'll just search 3 times and maybe I'll finally get to Google. It sounds so silly, like that I was doing that, right? But the thing is like sometimes our minds, like we look for just what we know, right? What we immediately know how to do to fix something. And sometimes it causes additional stress and frustration. And in this case, even like I'm running the risk being redirected to Bing and having ads pop up and all these things. I'm actually running the risk of further compromising my system, right? By just going this long way around, if that makes sense. And so why do we do that, right? And what are some things that you can consider in your life that are, you know, there's a malware in your life that's causing you to do this like runaround solution. It's not actually fixing the problem, but it's, you know, it's keeping everything running. Things are working, but there's a deeper problem that if you were to resolve it, all of a sudden, boom, your life is easier. Things are more effortless. There's a process you put into place that is actually going to create more efficiency for you.
I've got one.
Okay.
Like as we're hearing you talk about it, I want to put something into real life for me that I'm going through. Gosh, it's been about 2 months now, and the tire on the Porsche.
That's another good one.
It's a great one.
Oh my
The tire on the
gosh.
Porsche
We've got mirrors to address.
I know, this is crazy. It has a small leak, and it's not a bad leak.
It really like
it loses about
once it started getting warm outside, it's like barely noticeable. But when it was like really cold outside, it was like every morning the tire pressure was like, 5 psi lower than where it should be, or whatever.
Right.
And you have to go bring it back up to
and
pressure.
So you'd bring it up to pressure. And one day I'm driving and it's like,
oh man,
it's flashing saying, oh, you have a low flat tire. And I'm like, oh, I'm 2 minutes away from the gas station. So I get to the gas station doesn't, the air compressor of the gas station's broken. Oh, I got to drive to another gas station. Well, ultimately what happened was I drove on the flat tire and it gave you this ring of death.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
On the
now
outer
it can't
wall
be
of the
fixed.
tire. So now you have to replace the tire. Unfortunately, there was just no way to get air in the tire. And I should have just filled it up at home, but I was in a hurry trying to pick up children from gymnastics. That's what happened. So anyways, now we have this tire that has the ring of death that continues to lose PSI, but the small minuscule thing is just going out 2 or 3 minutes earlier before you leave, hooking it up to the air compressor and just filling up the tire, right?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the deeper root to it though. The tire on that car is like $400. $500.
It's like $500 plus.
And so
for one tire.
I could easily go buy that $500 tire, but then there's this other side of me that's like, well, there's still tread and things left on this tire.
Yeah.
So now I'm showing myself that I would prefer to have the inconvenience, the slight inconvenience,
instead of making the energy exchange of paying for the tire.
The energy exchange to pay for the tire, which now looking at it from a deeper point of view, like it could be scarcity. Sure, we could link that to that. But it's also like, what other inconveniences am I allowing in my life that are small inconveniences that could just be as simple as getting a new tire and never having to worry about that again.
Right. It's like that literally would fix the problem of having to go out 2 minutes early to fill up. And I think what's been so fascinating to me, realizing this with this whole, like this browser thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so funny. There's messages and everything, any feedback we receive, right? Any like emotion, all these things, there's a message for you there, right? And I've just been considering it and going like, okay, so why is it that I'm more willing to accept this like additional effort into my life that's unnecessary than just fixing it, right? Like, and then it becomes just part of your day. It's like you don't question it anymore. So like once you build the habit of like, okay, I'm just going to search a couple times and then get it to go to Google. All of a sudden, I'm not even thinking about it being a problem anymore. It's just, oh, this is just something I have to do. Same with the tire. It's like you just know in the back of your mind, like you don't have to think about it. It's like I got to go fill the tire before I leave. It's unconscious. It's a behavior at that point, right?
Well, what I love about this, like in a deeper standpoint, is that tire could blow at any second. It's jeopardized. It's not good. Your computer could crash at any minute because it's currently jeopardized. It's like
you're being sent messages of like, hey, you got to
Right.
address this. You need to fix this. But the longer you go without addressing it or fixing it, the more it just becomes part of your unconscious behavior.
Right.
And then that's when it becomes dangerous, to your point. Like, when is it going to blow?
Yeah. When is it going to blow?
When's that process going to break?
I think that sitting here not feeling well for the last 2 weeks, that's kind of the same thing. Is like, all right, my body's giving me signals that something needs to change. I need to do something a little bit different. I need to shake it up. And it's giving me warnings and feedback that you've got to do something. Well, okay, great. Do I fall back into unconscious habits? And I have, unfortunately, fallen into some unconscious habits. Like, I've been drinking caffeine just to get me through the day, which I've been off, for months. But now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need a drink, right?
Yeah.
So then I'm falling back into these unconscious habits, but my body's signaling something needs to change. Something needs to adapt. And that's where, like we just said, at any point that tire could blow. At any point your computer could blow. And your body's giving you feedback saying, yo, you need to change.
Yeah.
And at any point, like, I'm not going to say that this is the case, but at any point, could you blow too? And I think that that's a question you got to ask yourself.
So it's like the solution then would be, right, like bringing things back into your awareness, right?
Right.
Okay, what am I doing? What are these micro behaviors that I'm doing that are actually causing me more work and frustration? But until you bring that into awareness, you don't realize it. You're not consciously aware of the frustration and strain that these micro behaviors are causing in your life until you bring them into your conscious awareness, right? So bring those things into your awareness, and you got to like just take time to consider and be quiet and think and allow your mind to bring to your awareness the things that, that you could be more efficient about, or the things that you could change to create more joy and more, effortlessness into your life.
I'm having a brain like explosion moment right now in all the good ways because I'm looking at it going, I'm looking at it going, Jesse, if that little tire doesn't really bother you that much, right? And you would rather not just fix the problem, you would rather just, dedicate a little bit of time here and there. Why would you want, like, what kind of signal are you telling your body with this illness? Like, a little leaky nose, not a big deal.
I'll just put some air in my tire in the morning.
I'll just stuff this tissue up my nose and walk around and be okay. Yeah. Right? I'll still be able to function, but I'm still jeopardized. Yeah. Right? I'm still compromised.
Yeah. Instead of actually finding the fix, the solution, the healing.
Think of the deeper meaning too. Like, okay, you have this car, whatever it is, doesn't matter what the brand of the car is, but you have something that you've owned that you worked hard for, and you're not even like willing to take care of it, like to the fullest extent. So then what other things are crumbling around you? Yeah. Or like, what are you showing yourself on a deserving aspect? Yeah. You sit there at bed at night and say, I deserve to have something, but then your actions aren't actually indicating that you deserve anything at all. Absolutely.
Because your reality is a mirror of your beliefs and your behaviors, right? So if your beliefs and your behaviors in, those micro unconscious things are that, they're, adding work, creating longer processes, right? And those things, then your reality is likely going to feel like strained and long, and that there's not efficiency
or multiple searches, right? Like multiple.
It's so ridiculous. Every time I would get so frustrated. Right. It's like, why won't this just do what I want? Like, just go to Google, let me like fulfill my search. Like, it's so frustrating, but I just would like unconsciously accept it and create this ridiculous process to get to the outcome I wanted. When it's like, if I just like, once it's fixed, done, like it's so
many good things
easy,
here.
But it's so interesting how simple these examples are, right? But powerful messages, such powerful messages. So,
well, and that's the thing, like, where's your relationship, right? Like, maybe there's something in that relationship you just kind of unconsciously just dealt with, right? Yeah. That needs to be addressed. But if you actually addressed it, how much better could your relationship be, right? We're all thinking of all
there's something you're avoiding that,
What would it be like? What would it not be like? Yeah. Right? What is it currently? And what won't it not be? I mean, ask yourself some of these questions. What would it be like if you
actually didn't give resistance in fill in the blank area of your life, right?
Oh my gosh,
if you like, whether it's your relationship or your business or whatever it is, right? There's if you ever feel that like friction or resistance or an emotion, right? Emotions are so powerful to give a message. So like for me in this like ridiculous browser thing, like search engine thing, it's like I felt very frustrated. So then that should have been my first indicator of like, all right, stop. What do I need to learn? How do I resolve this so I can move forward, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes like it's just so easy to fall into a different process that causes more work, more frustration. And then you're teaching your mind like, I like this. I like feeling frustrated. In fact, when I feel frustrated, I'm going to find a solution that feeds that frustration so that next time I feel this again and I have the same outcome. That's what our mind goes through. That's the process. So you got to like break that and say, you know what? I actually don't like this frustration. How can I fix it?
Yeah.
How can I pull it straight out? Right. And then next time I'm going to search for something and I'm going to feel ease. Yeah. I'm not even going to think about it because it's just working effortlessly the way I want it to. So anytime you feel an emotion attached to an experience or something happening to you, that should be like the first indication that, all right, there's something here that I need to address.
I love that. And I think that sometimes we go through it and we're like, I don't have time for this. Right.
Yeah.
And like, okay, great. But you should have time for yourself always. Like I think of in our job, we get a phone call and maybe here's a great example. This is maybe a little TMI, but like I remember the other day I'm sitting there and I'm using the restroom. No, I'm using the restroom and you call me and you're like, you need to FaceTime this person like right away. And I'm like, can I use the restroom for 5 minutes? Like, like, and naturally it's like, okay, I gotta hurry, right? I can't take this time. Like I gotta hurry. I gotta jump back on this call. And really it's like, no, give yourself that moment.
2 minutes, whatever it is.
Give yourself like that moment to fix it and see if it's a bigger issue. Because at the end of the day, like we're neglecting the bigger problem, right? Okay, what happens if I'm driving on the side and all of a sudden I blow a tire, right?
We better go get that fixed.
Yeah, well, and we keep talking about it. So obviously this is a sign here, but okay, the tire's blown. Now I'm late to an appointment. That appointment was way more important than any other thing I've been dealing with right now. So why not just plan ahead and be prepared, right? Like, and instead, it's easier just to kind of like brush it. Put a Band-Aid and say, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm not going to fix it. And some people are really, really good at just addressing it and fixing it head on right in that moment. And others kind of just scoot it over. Yeah. Maybe it's an issue with worthiness or deserving, or maybe it's an issue of it's really not that big of a deal. Let's look at the bigger picture. Like whatever it is. I remember as a kid, my mom would be like, it's not that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. And I found myself saying that to our children. Oh, you know what? Yeah. It's not that big of a deal. It's a tiny scratch. Suck it up. Let's go.
I say that to myself all the time.
Right. Like, but it's still a feeling. It's still an emotion. So it is a big deal in that moment. Yeah. To a degree.
So how do we, like the key then is slowing down and allowing yourself to address something, right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, you bring up time, right? Where you were saying in the moment, sometimes it's like, oh, I don't have time for this. So the fix or the solution that actually requires more effort and energy sometimes appears to be more efficient in the moment because it's like, I don't have to sit down and actually figure this out right now. But don't you deserve to then like schedule time to figure it out, right? Do yourself the favor of then being like, okay, I can't address this right this minute, but I'm going to write this down. I'm going to make the intention to figure this out so that next time I don't experience the same thing, right?
Right.
Because otherwise, like going back to this search engine issue, right? If I would have made an intention to fix that early on, before going through that for 2 weeks, how much time did I actually waste? Right? Like I'm sitting there, I don't have time to figure this out. Well, how much time at the end of the day did I actually waste over those 2 weeks by feeling frustrated and having to research something 3 times and then just, getting upset at my computer? I mean, I wasted so much time.
Right.
So did I really not have time to fix it?
Right. It's just that in that moment, right? Like, oh man, I have a virus. Now I got to drop my laptop and I got to drive down to the store to have someone fix it. And who knows how long that's going to be or whatever. Or maybe it's just something as simple as finding someone, right? It's the who, not the how. And I think of like same thing with one of my coaches. Like I've been working on a few projects and I'm finally like, I've hit a stumbling block, and I just send him a message. I'm like, hey, you know what? I finally just hit this stumbling block. And he's like, why did it take you so long to reach out? He's like, why'd you have to go through so many stumbling blocks just to ask me a question? And it's like, well, I don't know if I really feel like I needed to ask you right in that moment. I like to figure it out. And he's like, well, you just wasted time. That's it. That's all you did. And it's the truth. It's like, all I did was waste time trying to figure it out instead of just reaching out to someone that's already done that. But why internally am I having that, oh man, I don't know if I should reach out right now, or I can figure it out? It comes down to a sense of pride, or maybe not even pride, but just like feeling like you're going to inconvenience someone. And he solidified it and said, listen, I love doing this. That's why you've paid me.
Yeah.
So like I can either sit here and not answer your questions, or I can answer your questions and do what I love. He's like, by you holding back and not asking the question actually holds back the things that I truly love as a man. And I was like, all right, I got you. I hear what you're saying now. Cool. So now it's like, all right, I'm going to blow up your phone. I'm going to freaking, I'm going to ask for everything because that's what I want. And, he's been responding and answering the questions without any sort of complaint or frustration. It's just been easier for me. And, that's what you need in life too. Imagine if you just called someone up, hey, here's the issue. They say, oh, here you go, 2-3 things fixed, boom. And all of a sudden that in 5 minutes it's taken care of, as opposed to 2 weeks of, searching 3 times.
Yeah. I love that. So let's break it down real quick and talk about, like, first off, how do you, like, we've touched on this a little bit, but let's just simplify it really quick. How do you recognize these malware or viruses or whatever you want to call them in your life that are causing you, time, feedback, like whatever it is? How do you recognize them? And I think that for me, it's like a lot of times recognizing a negative emotion, right? A lot of times there's going to be a negative emotion involved. And we touched on that a little bit, but be very aware of those emotions, right? Any you add? I feel like that's always there for me.
I would say, like, to touch that, if it bugs you, like if you're like, ugh,
you gotta do an
this
emotion,
again.
Right? Like something, it's sparking like frustration or some kind of negative feeling in you,
right? Or just like like if it's that, if you find
you're
yourself
not excited about it, you're just
or just feeling sluggish, you probably shouldn't be doing that. Maybe not in your relationship, your business, your family, whatever it is. Is if you're going like either there's some sort of emotion there.
Whether or not it's something you should or should not be doing, there's some program around it that needs to be shifted or adjusted. Some kind of process, whether it's a program or process, it needs to be fixed.
Well, and I found myself a lot of times going, I don't want to go to this family event, right? And I just had this negative process around it. And it, when I first started going through this stuff, discovered like it's not the family event. That was just a malware. That was all it was just the same reaction because of one reaction ago. Right.
So then you step back and consider like, okay, what if you were just like, well, if I feel this way, I must hate family events and just never go to another family event, right?
Right.
So then all of a sudden, like, you're just feeding that negativity and that emotion.
Right.
Maybe, right? That could be different person to person. That could be the solution for one, right?
Sure.
Just saying that, like, there's so many angles. So maybe just not going to the event really isn't the solution to the ultimate problem, right?
Sure.
Maybe it actually is a perspective or a program of the way you're viewing something or, whatever. So becoming very aware and curious of the emotion attached to something, I think really is like, you could just call that the key to recognizing the virus or malware is the emotion.
Right.
And then from there, breaking it down, like how do you discover what the solution is?
And I think you go back and you ask yourself the questions, right? When did I first start feeling this way? And giving yourself an opportunity to discover, like, was this a long time ago or was this just recent? What do I want to feel instead is a great question too, right?
Right.
And then ask yourself too, like, one of my favorite things to do right now is if I say something like, oh, I'm like, what's a good one? I'm failing because I'm not clear on what I want. right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I ask myself the question and say, are there times when I succeed and I'm not clear on what I want still? Am I still succeeding? And I kind of flip and twist the question back.
Either create negation in it or
Right.
flip it into a positive, one or the other.
Right. Like I'm happy when I'm eating healthy. Okay. Are there times when I'm not eating healthy and I'm happy?
Mm-hmm. Or
Yeah.
eating healthy and not happy.
Right. Right. And but just like kind of switching the question back and forth.
Instead of it just being like a direct like equation of like this equals that.
Yeah. Like I'm frustrated when the kids scream. Are there times when the kids are screaming and I'm not frustrated? Absolutely. When we're on a ride at Lagoon, or like if we're at a theme park and the kids are excited and screaming in happiness. Okay, then
interesting.
Is that really the problem? Mm-hmm. Or is it just in this moment, what's the deeper root? Yeah. Right. And then flipping the question and asking yourself that, I have found recently has really helped me.
I like that. And I think going back to what you said earlier too, focusing on the what, not the how.
Right.
Because I think a lot of times we get hung up on like, how do I know? How do I fix this?
Right.
Well, you don't know how until you know the what. So once you figure out the what, maybe it's as simple as, what do I want to feel instead?
Right.
You identify what you want to feel instead of what you want. All of a sudden your mind's going to be unlocking like, okay, this is what I need to do next. This is the next step. This is the, it's easy. So easy to problem solve once you figure out what it is. Right. And then your mind just immediately starts unlocking the how. The how is the smallest of the problem. Yeah.
And that's the thing.
That will come the easiest.
But that's where we put the most emphasis is the how. How am I going to create this $1 million business? Mm-hmm. Well, don't worry about that. The fact is, you want what you want is $1 million business. Now go out and figure it out. But don't worry about the how and get stressed out in the emotions of the how, because you got to allow things to flow, and you got to learn, and you've got to research and study and do things, right? Yeah. Reach out to other people that have done it. There's options there, but you need to let go of the how and focus more on the what. Yeah. What that's
desire. A very, I think for a lot of us, a very deep program that, I still find myself basically daily reminding myself it's not the how, it's the what, right? Right. Where something's happening and I'm like, oh, how am I going to do this? Right. That's literally, we ask ourselves that so much. How am I going to do this? How is this going to happen? How this, how that? It's like, well, hold on. First of all, what is it? Yeah. It is this. Okay, now let's work towards it. And the how just flows and happens for you.
But what I love about that is when you know what it is and you want it, things naturally flow easy.
Exactly. Because a lot of times when it's like the how is not coming, there's a misalignment with what you want. And so you're like, you're maybe wanting A, but your energy is going towards B. So that's why the how is like not happening. It's not easy for you. Whereas if you knew like very directly you were going towards A or B, the how would flow so easily. Right.
I've been doing that with work too. When I sit down and I go, what do I want to accomplish right now? And that's where I signify I want to accomplish this, and I get ready, and then I'm fine. I start to work and things go happen easily. Instead of going, okay, how am I going to do this? I just go, this is what I want. And I get very locked in. I find that at the gym too, when I do that, my gym workout's better. I want a 6-pack, right? And I just have to remind myself the what and stop focusing on the, I'm never going to get my 15,000 steps. How am I going to squeeze all this in this day and work and all this other stuff? Like, you've got to focus on the what.
I think when we are hyper focused on the how, that's where additional work and additional stress is caused, right? Because I look at the search engine frustration, right? My creating of this process of like searching 3 times before I could get to Google was me focusing on the how. Yes. How am I going to get to Google? Well, I could search 3 times. I'm focused so hard on the how that I'm making it hard. Like it is like, I'm like forcing it.
I love this conversation so much. Yeah.
It's so funny. Like this honestly is the silliest thing, but it's been like a huge mindset breakthrough for me. So like this, I'm like pushing so hard for this how when it's like, okay, what do I want? I want this to just not happen. I want this to go away. I don't want to have to search 3 times to get to Google. I want it to go back to how it used to be.
So what you're saying is you want to get to Google.
Yeah. I just want to get to Google immediately. Okay, well then the how's easy. I got to remove the malware. Boom. Yeah. It sounds so ridiculous, but correlate that into something in your life. It could be just as simple. Right. To fix a problem or an emotion or something that you're facing, stop asking yourself how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
What do you want? Boom.
And it's not, I don't want this, right? Like an example going back to the car. I don't want to fill up the tire of the car. No, it's not that. What it is I want to jump in my car and I want to be able to leave.
Yeah.
If I'm in a hurry, wherever I'm going, I can just jump in and go.
Well, because I could say like, oh, I don't want this to go to Bing. I don't want this to go to Bing. Bing, I can't even talk. Well, great. Maybe then it's going to start going to Yahoo or some other thing.
Right.
Like, that's not specific enough.
I want this to go to Google.
I want this to go to Google every time immediately without this ridiculous redirect.
Ooh, something else I've been doing recently, and this is what my coach has been is encouraging me to do, is when I say want, I'll say or better.
Okay.
Right?
So
I want to go to Google.
Reminding your neurology that like you could have what you want and maybe even more.
Right. So like if I'm saying I want $10 million or more or better, right? I want a GT3 RS Porsche or better.
Nice.
Well, of course.
Or two.
Or
more.
Well, that's the thing, is a GT3 RS, or could you do a 992, right? Like if that was better.
I don't even know what a 992 is.
Or a 991, right? Like there's spiders and all these other different versions. I mean, like, let's be honest. If you're like, hey, for simplicity, I want the Porsche Turbo, and that's what you say. But if you say or better, and all of a sudden a Porsche Turbo S, which is faster, same everything else, but it's a Turbo S for the same price and same resource, of course you could take that.
I like that because our unconscious is so ridiculously powerful, right? So there's things that maybe aren't even in our awareness that our unconscious can see and can, feel and attract.
Correct.
So you're basically telling your unconscious mind, like,
this is what I want.
Here's what I'm aware of.
Yes.
But I'm also aware that there's more.
Right.
That I'm not currently aware of and that, could be. Right. So I'm telling you.
Here's what I want. I'm setting the baseline.
You can continue to attract and search farther.
Yes.
So it's like, here's what I'm aware. I know you have more awareness. So like you're giving yourself permission to become more aware, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So like without that, you could be limiting your awareness.
Right.
Wow.
You could have it faster too. Yeah. Right. Once again,
because your unconscious mind is like, okay, great. This is my cap. Like I don't need to go farther than this. Right. Whereas if you kind of open that window to like actually or more, it's like, oh, well now I'm going to actually become more curious for Jesse or Amber or whoever you are. Yeah. And I'm going to search a little farther. I'm going to expand my awareness. Like while you're sleeping and while you're considering all the data you took in today, I'm actually going to like expand on it rather than just like stopping.
Right.
That's cool. I like that.
It's pretty cool. There's a lot of little like small things I've been doing just to like amplify and to really consider. And it's been really like, I feel like in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even though I've been like under the weather, I still feel like in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we have seen astronomical growth by small tweaks of things we're already doing, by just adding that little or better, or asking yourself that simple question. Just, okay, I'm mad because of this. Well, are there times when this happens that I'm not mad? Yeah. Right. And
remembering that everything in our life happens for a purpose and a reason. It happens for us, not to us. Right. So even like when we are under the weather, right, there's something to be gained and learned. So I remember like one day, body. Yeah, we have, we've learned a ton about that. And then also just, I remember a couple weeks ago, sitting there and we're like trying to take care of ourselves, and we realized, holy cow, our team is incredible. Yes. Like we can actually take a step back. And I remember Jesse in particular was feeling under the weather, and I felt like my body was fighting it. And we just went outside, let our kids play. We laid on the lawn and just baked in the sun.
It was so nice.
We baked in the sun. And we just laid there and we just took some time to be outside, get some good vitamin D, some good time just to relax and let our bodies, work towards healing. Right. And in that moment, we both also felt so much gratitude for our team, because without them, that would not have been possible. We would have been continued to put more stress on our body. And, so everything, there's learning and gratitude to be found in everything. Right. Even when sometimes it's like, well, this is throwing my whole day off. This is so frustrating, right? Why does it feel that way? And what do you want to feel instead? Right. So anyways, I feel very excited about this, and I just challenge any of you listening to consider, like, what is something I'm experiencing right now that is causing frustration or negative emotions? What is something that a process that I've created in my day, in my work, in my relationship, my parenting, whatever it is that I feel frustrated about? And then consider, like, is there actually a simple shift or solution that could remove that rigorous process and replace it with ease and effortlessness?
I love it. I feel like this episode, we started off on malware, and then we went deep into some other things that are all beneficial. It's all encompassed, and I love it. And I think this is probably one of my most favorite episodes, where we've kind of just riffed and talked about so many different things that we're experiencing and going through right now. And I hope that this helps you as a listener. And we just want to say thank you for taking the time and spending with us, and for the great feedback and things we've received from you. And we really appreciate you being with us every single week and listening and sharing this episode and this podcast with your friends.
Yeah. And I feel like it's something that we get to open up and be, raw, and we get to share with you some of the things that we're going through. And it's beneficial for me to, like, talk and share these things, because I learned so much more through doing that. So thanks for being here and listening, and hopefully you're all able to go and recognize the same in your life, right? Anything that happens doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. So what is the learning? What is it that you can take away that's actually going to empower your life rather than tear you down?
Love that. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, everybody.
To the Matrimonial Merger. We hope you have a fantastic week.
Thank you for tuning in to the Matrimonial Merger Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it informative and entertaining. If you did, we would love it if you could share this podcast with your friends and family who might also be interested in topics related to marriage and relationships. And if you have a few minutes, please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us improve the show and reach more listeners like you. Thanks again for listening to the Matrimonial Merger. We'll be back soon with another episode.